Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. You can also catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio 96.3 FM and on your favorite streaming platform. You know we work hard every week to bring you information about people, places, and things that makes your life here in Tampa Bay that much better. It's our little corner of paradise and we embrace it fully. So I want you to like, follow my accounts on Instagram and Facebook and X, where you will find out all the latest information about my show, my guests, and of course my on-air wardrobe from my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. It's always a great honor and a great pleasure to welcome our guests into the chair on Connecting with Kim. So please welcome back Cindy Stuart, who is the Clerk of the Court and the Comptroller for Hillsborough County. Welcome back, Cindy.
Thanks. Great to be here.
It's always great to have you. So, there may be some people, because you know we have a lot of folks moving into Hillsborough County and the Tampa Bay area, particularly since our last election, who may not know who is Cindy Stuart. And I find that hard to imagine because you're everywhere. But and people say that to me all the time too. But let's take a few minutes at the top of the show, like we always do, to share a little bit about your life journey.
So I'm Cindy Stuart. I'm the Clerk of the Court and Comptroller for Hillsborough County. We're 1.5 million residents right now. We're compared to the size of Rhode Island. So large county, small county feel, though, I would say. Grew up here, went to high school here in Hillsborough County. I've raised all 3 of my children here. They are also products of Hillsborough County Public Schools. I was married for 24.5 years. I've been by myself for the last 5. Which has been another exploration in a very different way, but love where I'm living in Seminole Heights, love being part of this community. I am the first person in my family to graduate from college. I went to FIU, Florida International University, down in Miami, and I have a MIS degree, which is a computer technology and programming degree. So started in that field, left that field for a while I raised children. Got back involved in my kids' schools and ran for school board starting in 2011, won that seat in 2012 and served 8 years as a Hillsborough County school board member. Hillsborough County is the 3rd largest county in the state for school boards and the 7th largest in the nation. So very large budget, very large student population, 212,000 students. I think they're up to about 220 schools. So great experience for me, a lot of really good work done there. And back in 2020, during COVID, Pat Frank decided to retire. She was a long-standing icon in this community.
Great lady.
Served numerous roles in an elected position. She was retiring. And I called her and said, hey, I'm interested. And she said, okay. And I had already previously filed to run for school board again and decided, you know what, why not?
Why not?
So on April 20th, 2020, we filed to run. We won that seat in August, and I have been sworn into this position since January of 21, and we have been running full steam ever since. Bringing a new look to the office, some new staff, working with staff differently. My basis for everything I do is we're going to get to yes. And it's all about the community. We serve the constituents of Hillsborough County, and we're a forward-facing office.
Well, let's back up just a second for all the new residents that might be watching and listening to our interview. I personally know that the Clerk of the Court and the Comptroller for Hillsborough County is in my opinion, the most important constitutionally elected office because you touch every single piece of data in our county. So let's back up and enlighten folks listening out there exactly, and you might want to split it up, Clerk of the Court versus Comptroller, because you got a big job and you got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is really 2 roles. It is 2 different sides of the house, and we run on 2 budgets.
Right.
So the Clerk of the Court side of the house, we're responsible for all the evidence that comes into the courtroom. We're responsible for storage of all the data and all the files, all the dockets that judges sit in front of, setting those dockets. We're responsible for jurors who come in. We summon about 3,000 jurors a week into cases that judges are getting ready and attorneys are getting ready to hear in courtrooms. So we bring those jurors into the courthouse. We're responsible for payments for many, many different items. We are, again, Clerk's accounting handles all of the payments that come through for traffic, any civil filings that happen, so family law, dependency, delinquency, all of those things come through our office. We share space with probation with the sheriff's office on the first floor of the courthouse. We also do a lot of the back office work, so probate, evictions, all of those things are run through my office on the court side of the house. We also have an official records portion of our business, so we keep and store all of the records for Hillsborough County. So both on the court side, criminal side, and civil, and then all of the county records are also stored in our coffers and in our warehouse.
So if somebody wants to exercise Freedom of Information Act and request records, they have to come to you.
They do, and a lot of that work they can do online.
Okay.
So a lot of those things can be found online. So board minutes from a county commission board meeting, records from a marriage or a dissolution of marriage, records from a sale of a home or a mortgage or tax deed. All those things can be found within our office, and on most of them online.
Okay.
In that space, we also perform marriages and do marriage licenses, and we issue passports. On the county side of the house, we also handle all of the accounts payable and receivable for the county.
So you're talking about the comptroller side of the house?
The comptroller side of the house.
Well, some people don't even know what that word means.
Right. Right. So we are responsible not only for all of the holding of all the investments and managing all of that. I have a CFO who's been working in that office for about 8 years, managing all of the investments on the county side of the house, to also managing all the accounts payables and receivables, all of the audits that happen, the big report that comes out actually end of April, the annual financial report that comes out. That's our office through a third party auditing all the constitutionals as well as the county. We're responsible for that work, and we process probably about 1,000 transactions a day between payables and receivables. So while you have a county contract, you may have a contract with the county, but the payable is the check's going to come from my office.
Okay,
it's
so
going to have my name on it.
Okay, so how many people do you have? I don't think you talked about this in the entry. How many people do you have working totally or on both sides of the house? Because I'm assuming you keep it separate.
So total, we have about 700.
Okay.
2/3 of my employees are in courts, and the other third work on the county side. I have a very large IT division because obviously security and data is a very much a portion of our work.
Right.
We also pay about 6,000 employees payroll every year.
Wow.
Every other week.
You know, every time, I mean, I've known you a long time, and I've had Pat Frank on the show, I've had you on several times, and I honestly, every time you come on and we talk about this, I'm always still overwhelmed at the breadth and depth of what you have to do. I mean, it's amazing.
Our office is governed by about 1,000 statutes.
And what I found, so I have two things I want to cover. The first was when you called, because Pat Frank's a legend, we all know that, but when you called Pat Frank and you decided to run for this office, and congratulations, you got elected, what was the biggest surprise that you had?
Probably the biggest surprise coming into the office was the breadth of the work. And I remember during the campaign, I had a couple of people who kept trying to educate me on, and I said, stop, the runway's too short. We're just going to have to give me the details that we have to know to get through the election. And I'm still learning. Every day is a learning opportunity. Every day we find out something else that has happened or that's mandated by the state Supreme Court or mandated by the legislator that we have to change or fix, or things that we need to shuffle around. So every day is a learning opportunity. But and I thrive in that environment. But yeah, probably the breadth of the work is something that I really didn't understand until probably mid to late the first year.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can actually.
No.
Anybody could actually, because she could, you know, your predecessor could have sat and talked with you for hours.
Yes.
But you wouldn't really, until you put your hands and fingers on it, you know, you don't really understand.
Right.
It's hard to describe, right?
Right. I think it's important that people understand that there's a lot of work that happens in the courtroom that we're responsible for. So, you know, you've got a public defender or a private attorney, you've got the state, you've got a judge, but all that paperwork all is coming through my office. So the greatest of things can happen in a courtroom and the worst of things can happen in a
Right.
courtroom. And I take time specifically to talk to my courtroom clerks. We take about a year to train them because it's that much work, and criminal and civil are very, very different. But the stroke of a pen, the click of a wrong button can really affect someone's life, whether they're picked up on a warrant or whether they're released from prison. So it's really important that our clerks are really well trained and very accurate and very detail oriented. It's a focus that we spend a lot, like I said, we spend a year training people just to be in a courtroom next to a judge. And the judges will tell you that if I move a clerk out of a courtroom, they're not very happy. Well, because they get very used
Well, they get used to them, and the person has
Exactly.
a certain working style, and
Exactly, and they don't want to be subject to a new clerk or a new person coming in. They have their own style about them as well. So, and some of their courtrooms are very fast paced. Some of them are high stress. Some of them are very emotional. So we're very conscious of that when we're putting clerks in different courtrooms and how they work. On the county side of the house, we've been dealing with a brand new financial system that the county has put in place. I think we're finally in a space where we're looking at a lot of the kinks have been worked out with any new system. There's going to be, as a former IT person, a lot of bugs and a lot of issues.
Right.
And I think we've managed that well. It was a lot of stress on both sides of the house, both for the county staff and for my staff, to lift such a system. We moved to the cloud, which is great because that keeps us from having, local on-site data storage. So we're in the cloud now. So that's really forward-thinking for a government agency, especially a government this large, to be. But we're also in every single BOCC meeting. We're in every single land use meeting. We're in a lot of those different meetings, making sure that recordings are happening, making sure that voting machines are happening when the people who are voting for things work and vote. We're taking minutes for all of the board meetings. Those minutes are then moved from verbal into written form and put in front of the board for approval. So that's a lot of our work. A lot of times we'll get questioned, how did a vote go on a particular item? What was said? What do the minutes say? We record, of course, everyone who comes for public comment, name and address, and what they're speaking about in particular, what agenda item they came to speak about. So it's really, we're in a lot of spaces that I don't think people realize. Every time I say we do passports, people are like, what?
Yeah, I can imagine, because they think of that as a federal job. If you're just joining me now and connecting with Kim, our guest in the chair today is Cindy Stuart, who is the Clerk of the Court and the Comptroller for Hillsborough County. So, it's a big job you came into, but from my perception, and I think from a lot of people's out there perception, you really hit the ground running. And on top of that, you've introduced so many new and innovative, and I think that this is no disrespect to your predecessor, but new eyes and new energy and different is always good, because things should be changed over time and things should move in a different direction. And you've done a lot of new things. So let's kind of review all the new things you've brought since you took the office, because it's a lot.
We're going to be here for a few hours.
Well, you're going to have to
So
condense it down into the
I'll talk
CWK.
about a few.
Choose your favorites. Choose your favorites.
So one of my favorites is our Generous Jurors program, and that revolves around, there is legislation that says that a juror, when they come in for jury duty, can elect to donate their compensation for the day, which is $15 a day, to one of two state designated nonprofits that are within your community.
Right.
And in this community, it's the Spring of Tampa Bay and Voices for Children, the Guardian Ad Litem program. So we started this. We put a little checkbox on the back of the jury summons, and there's really not a lot of information there. There's just do you want to donate your $15?
Right.
We were sending out a lot of checks that were not getting cashed to people, so I thought, why not? Let's just see how it goes. We'll advertise it and see how it goes. In year one, we chose to only give our dollars to, the community gave their dollars to the Spring of Tampa Bay. There was a $45,000 donation in year one. To the Spring of Tampa Bay that they were not expecting, that kind of came. And then this year we've switched over to the Guardian Ad Litem program, Voices for Children, and I think we're up to about $12,000 in the first quarter.
Okay, so what does that, because you said earlier that you summon 3,000 jurors a week. So do you keep any statistics on how much of that percentage of jurors is donating to the
We
charity?
do, and it fluctuates. I think when we talk about it in spaces like this, people tend to remember. And depending on how many jurors actually stay in the courthouse and actually sit in a jury room and in a jury box, we tend to get a little higher donations. But we are tracking. We seem to be on track with where we are for the spring. So I'm sure that Guardian is going to be very happy with what they end up with at the end of the year. And then we'll flip back to the other nonprofit. Another program that we've really started pushing is passports. People don't know that we do passports and we don't require an appointment, which is probably the biggest
that's amazing
surprise.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. We take passport applications from 8:30 to 2:30 every single day of the week. And we've started in this last year doing some special days. So we'll do a Saturday passport once a quarter. Because when you do passports for children, you have to have your children with you in order to get a passport for them. We offer pictures. We do all of the filings, including the expediting, and then it is mailed out of our office. And right now, passports are taking about 2 to 3 weeks to get back fully processed.
But this is new since you took the office?
Yes.
Okay, because this is good to know, because the last time I had to renew my passport, because you had to do it with the feds, I sent them everything. I filled out that application. I even sent them a copy of my old passport, right? And when I got the new passport in the mail, my name was misspelled. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Seriously, people? I'm in the system. This is like my 5th passport because, my late husband and I traveled and lived all over the world, so we always had passports. So this is, I can't wait.
Well, I think I've always done them. I just don't think it's been a priority for our office. And when we started, post-COVID, people were really struggling to get passports. And the federal government was very behind on the issuance of passports. The airport post office takes appointments, and they only do appointments. So there's no walk-in availability there. So when people kind of discovered that we do them and we take walk-ins at any time, and we're also starting to do some evening work, like 5 to 7. We'll stay open a little bit later and allow people to come in. Our biggest days are days kids are off school and we're open. People come in with their children, and that's a really tough. And I get calls all the time, what do I have to do? So I have now a note on my phone, and I send them either to our website directly to get the information, or I send them the note with all the fees and fines that they would have to bring with them, including, I tell a lot of people, don't take a picture yourself and don't go get a picture. We'll do it for you, because the Department of State is very particular about the picture.
Yeah, it has to be exactly this size, because it has to
the
exactly
color has
on
to
there.
be just right. So that's another program that we've really pushed very hard this past year.
Good. But you've done some other stuff too that I thought was really interesting. So you want to talk about a couple more programs before we talk about the future?
Tell me what you want to hear about.
No, this is your time to shine. This isn't about me, what Kim Droege thinks. It's about you and what you think, because you really have, in my opinion, even if they weren't new programs, I think that you placed an emphasis on them and promoted them in a way that hadn't been done before. And it's very innovative. I mean, you do the marriage thing. You do, there's so many.
We do perform marriages. I will tell you, this week has been a very exciting week for us. We started to survey our employees when I first arrived, because I really wanted to hear how they were feeling, what they thought, what improvements they thought they could bring forward. The last set of surveys that we did is through a company called Intergage. National survey questions. We did not formulate the questions ourselves, nor did we have full access to the data until the results came out. We learned first, probably early February, that we won a top women-led organization badge, as well as several other badges under that category. And then last Friday, we were announced as a top workplace national and a top workplace for Hillsborough County. So we're super excited.
Congratulations.
About that.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook post.
Right, and mostly that. I'm appreciative of our employees and what they think of the work environment and what they're living and breathing and coming. I mean, let's face it, you spend the majority of your time of your day at work. So I want them to be in a good space and be comfortable and be able to come forward with their concerns or their questions or their suggestions.
Right.
But for us too, it's a recruiting tool. I think people don't think that working in government is always the best place or a place they want to work. And so we spend a lot of time recruiting around that topic, that there's great benefits, there's great vacation, there's great days off, you get every government holiday off. And there's a longevity to working in government. So we also have an internship program that we started right after I took office. I actually had a local student who was at University of Florida who said, I've got to do a project, and can I come into your office and do it? And I said, yeah, come develop an internship program. Yesterday, I heard from my chief of human engagement that we had 100 applications waiting for our summer internship program. Our spring internship program is closed, and we take about 12 if we can.
Okay.
But we have 100 applicants.
That's amazing.
It's a paid internship. So, and I will tell you, we've hired a few people out of that program, people who have wanted to stay with us, local students who want to stay here. I have one intern who worked for us who decided to go back to school. She's still working for us, and she's fantastic, running circles around some people. So really enthusiastic people who come to work for us. I have a girl who's in HR that worked for us, left and went to work for a cosmetic company here that just opened locally, but she's the head of HR. So really exciting times for us in that aspect.
Well, we know a thing or two about interns here at CBAE.
Exactly.
And I have to say, I'm shooting season 3 now of the show. In the time that I've been here, we have always had the most amazing interns.
Yep.
And so we really, that's very important to us too. Okay, so so it's an election year, and I know that you're running again for Clerk of the Court.
I am.
But as you look out, what would you like to bring to the office additionally? You know, what would you like to change? What would you like to see happen? I mean, you do so much now; it's hard to imagine.
We do. So a lot of what we're dealing with right now in this space is with session just ending. We are now evaluating all the legislation that came through and how that affects our office.
Right.
I've actually have a legislative committee that meets while session is happening. They kind of monitor bills. And they'll let us know, me and my team know, is there something that we really need to go to Tallahassee and have a conversation with someone about? I will tell you there's a bill that came through. We do a lot of work in domestic violence, very good relationship with the Spring of Tampa Bay, and a lot of work around that. And one of the bills that came through this year is called the Hope Card Bill, and it came out of South Florida. The way the bill was written, it was going to place a burden on our office.
Right.
There is, right now, after a judge signs an injunction, there is a very large packet of information, not only that you have to submit for an injunction, but then you get back that packet of information. It's very difficult to carry that around if you're a survivor or a victim and keep that. So about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we developed an app that allows you to get that on your phone. So the minute the judge signs the injunction, if you give us your cell phone number, we text you the entire packet. So you never really have to come back to the courthouse again. The Hope Card bill was going to require that a small 3x5 card be printed for every injunction that was released from a judge, and then that had to be certified mailed to the victim. Well, clearly that was going to place, that was
that's like going backwards.
It was going to take us back in time.
Yeah.
So I made sure that we went to both the sponsors of the bill and said, look, can you just put or digital option in the language, because if you don't, you're going to take us backwards. Fortunately, Hillsborough County, we are very tech savvy here. We lean on technology.
We do.
To, and in my office particularly, to do things for us, and that would have taken us back. So my legislative committee really keeps an eye on those things to make sure that we're not going in a wrong direction. A couple years ago, we had language changed in, again, the domestic violence space we were sending injunctions across county lines by regular mail or FedEx. A lot of clerks were FedExing them, and that was costing them money. We had the language changed with a sitting senator helping us to say that now it has to go by email to the sheriff's office. So within minutes, a sheriff's office on another county will have an injunction, because both the victim and the person who is on the other side of that should have the opportunity to know, hey, there's an injunction out there. I need to do what I need to do and stay in my space. So that was really, really a win for us. we were really excited about that
Well,
as well.
and you should be, because as you know, I spent some time in the sausage factory this year, and well, you know, in the sausage factory with the sausage makers is completely different than watching the sausage made from afar. And so I can appreciate that one little change in the language, what that
Yes.
means. But bravo to you. It's important.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time. So I know. We say that all the time, right? Went so fast. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our watching and listening audience?
No, I think this year and, in the coming year after election, we're focused this year on process improvement.
Mm-hmm.
We're spending a lot of time working through what that looks like, how we, decompress, desegregate processes, and make sure that, one, that we're following process, that everyone that is following the process, that there's policy behind those things, and that if there's ways for us to be innovative in that we move in that direction. So a lot of work around that. There's already a lot of work around that, but we're moving it into a couple of different spaces that haven't had that opportunity to really look at how their process is. One of the things that people say that it drives me, we've always done it that way. And that I'm not a fan of that statement, because there are always better ways to look at and to either, whether that's saving money, saving time, saving hours. Those are all things that are, look, these are taxpayer dollars we're using to run this office, and let's not lose sight of that. So anywhere that we can save dollars and push those dollars elsewhere to be innovative, that's what we're looking to do in the next year.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for being my guest today on Connecting with Kim.
Absolutely.
If you're just tuning in, our guest in the chair was Cindy Stuart, who is the Clerk of the Court and the Comptroller for Hillsborough County. And in my opinion, it is the most important constitutionally elected office in the county, because her office touches everything that goes on in this county. Every piece of data, money, storage, I mean, you name it, they touch it. So it's very important. We want to thank you for joining us today on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. Again, you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio and your favorite streaming platform. And I want to thank you for joining us, because I work very hard every week to try to bring you information about people, places, and things that is going to help you live your best life in our corner of paradise. So come back next week for another edition of Connect with Kim. Bye.